Some people are really fucking stupid. Did you ever notice that? How many really stupid people you run into during the day? God damn, there's a lot of stupid bastards walking around. Carry a little pad and pencil with you. You wind up with 30 or 40 names by the end of the day. Look at it this way. Think of how stupid the average person is, and then realize half of them are stupider than that. And it doesn't take you very long to spot one of them, does it? Take you about 8 seconds. You'll be listening to some guy. You say, this guy is fucking stupid. Then there are some people, they're not stupid, they're full of shit. That doesn't take very long to spot either, does it? Take you about the same amount of time. You'll be listening to some guy and say, well, he's fairly intelligent. He's full of shit. Then there are some people, they're not stupid, they're not full of shit, they're fucking nuts. Dan Quayle is all three. All three. Stupid, full of shit, and fucking nuts.
All right, you guys. Welcome back to another episode of These People Are Idiots. I'm joined here again by my friend, Ciprian Ivanov.
Hello?
And yeah, it's been another crazy time in American history, and everything's gone to hell. So, Ciprian, how are things in our nation's capital?
The mayor has decided to not run for re-election. Which, I mean, after 3 terms, that might seem like they're freaking exhausted and they don't want to deal with this BS anymore. But I think she's better than any of the alternatives. So I'm upset that she's not going to run again, even if I still hate her guts. So it's okay, I don't hate her guts. I actually kind of feel sorry for her. I sat in on some meetings, and the questions she got were often very dumb. But she's taken a lot of flack from all sides, and she's tired, and I get it. And I'm just scared of what's going to come after her. She's someone who I think is often wrong, someone who I think is often making bad decisions, and yet she's handled a lot of problems with a heck of a lot more realism than the city council. So if one of the nut jobs from the city council becomes mayor again, becomes the new mayor, things are probably going to get worse.
Ugh. And that's saying a lot, considering, like you were saying before the podcast, she took a bribe from Qatar, right? So she's definitely got her issues.
Well, I mean, it's a trip that was paid for by the Qatari embassy, and allegedly she asked someone to file paperwork asking to be reimbursed by the DC government, but it was actually paid for by Qatar. Now, is that a bribe? Yeah, realistically, probably yes. But I suppose there's a way she wouldn't think it was a bribe. I can't imagine how, but that's the way politics works. Quite often, the most delusional people have the easiest time sounding confident and therefore looking competent.
So, sorry, go ahead.
And yet, she's better than the nut jobs on the city council.
It's kind of how I mentioned before. That's how I'm feeling with Trump. Is it's just like you just got to choose your wrecking ball at this point. It's like there's a lot of not good stuff happening, but at the same time, it's like anybody else being in that position would be probably horrendous in the current moment.
Welcome to politics.
Jesus. So, like,
I mean, I'm a terrible candidate. I'm an introvert. I don't like going out and knocking doors and shaking hands and being the cheerful guy saying, "Yes, we're going to win. You should definitely vote for me." I hate that stuff. And yet somebody's got to do it. And if nobody's going to do it, there's going to be no resistance to things getting worse. So I've got to do it. I don't want to do it. I'd rather be in a back room analyzing budget report. But because nobody's stepping forward, because they've got families and they don't want to have a smear campaign against them, and because so many people just one side effect of one party politics is that it tends to be really rough on anybody who would normally have an established sense of a career. I'm a loser, so I don't actually suffer that much from being the target of smear campaigns and whatnot. So I'm the guy running as a Republican in Democratic-dominated D.C. It's not great, but it's all you can frickin' do.
Yeah. And good on you for doing it. And honestly, saying all that makes you a lot more humble than the rest, I think. Which is why I still say...
Hey, I wouldn't be running if there was an actual competitive chance. Well, because I'd rather leave it to someone else.
Man. How long is it till the next elections anyways? Year or two or
about a year.
About a year? Okay, yeah.
I mean, it depends for which election, but for mine, it's in November 2026.
Okay,
for the mayor's, nice. It's in 2027.
Do you see DC turning more blue or turning more red?
Blue, actually.
Yeah. It's very... Things are hot right now. It kind of makes me miss the George Floyd era watching all this stuff happen. It was a lot lighter. Kind of feels like.
Well... Okay, I'm going to sound like a conspiracist, even though I generally am critical of it. David Axelrod, I forget the name of the guy. I mean, Obama's main psychology strategist. I forget his name. But the ability to coordinate artificial social movements, back when it would seem to be highly successful, the strategists could feel a sense of optimism because they seemed to be winning, and frankly, they were winning. So they could rely on optimistic messaging. But what's the rule of thumb in politics? Negative emotions are 3 times stronger than positive emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And because Trump seems to be winning, and frankly, because so many people seem fed up with the Democratic messaging machine, largely because they don't like being told to believe blatant lies, they're losing control. And how are they going to make the machine work more powerfully when they're losing resources? Fear-based messaging.
Which is working, especially in the trans community. Did you see that Matthew Thomas Crooks, turns out they were non-binary and into the whole furry thing too?
I've heard that claim. I haven't evaluated it in detail. I wouldn't be surprised. I just haven't investigated it.
It's just scary, especially the trans stuff. They're weaponizing trans kids so hard. And like a non-political avenue to look at through this, have you followed the Slenderman stabbing thing at all? The girl that just escaped?
Oh, gosh. I mean, that's one of the dangers of discriminatory legal systems. Because when you enact lower punishments for people who claim a special status, that means that all the psychopaths end up gravitating to one side.
Yep.
But they're still fucking psychopaths.
Yep. And they were helped out by like a 50, 60-year-old trans individual named Chad, they were sitting there writing about the murder to each other, all these girl stories and all this, and then helped sneak her out. It's like, what the hell? That's grooming if I ever seen it.
It is. Look, if I really I don't think about that aspect too much because I would just get too angry if I did. And I know that sounds cowardly, but the sense of horror I feel about the kind of implications that come from that kind of discriminatory system are are not good.
Yeah. And it just
It
encourages the psychosis, it feels like, because that little girl didn't go in there trans. I'm pretty sure that happened after.
well, maybe okay, she wasn't trans before, but is it they genuinely believed they were trans, or is it they pretended to be trans in order to get special treatment?
I think it was that. And then I think they leaned in hard. I think that with the psychosis and the reality mixing and everything that was already going on in the head, I think
I
they
mean,
just leaned into it.
and that's the danger. When you have people gaining, and this is going to be where the legal definition of class differs from the sociological definition of class, at least the Marxian one, where the class-based benefits become so strong, it attracts people who only think of the benefits. By by providing so many benefits to trans-identified individuals, the left basically ensured that they would attract all the psychopaths into their own camp.
Yeah.
I mean, you still have psychopaths on the right, more because now there's so much disgust at the left that anybody who is horribly manipulative on the right can make bank. I'm thinking of Candace Owens. Uh, but for the low-level psychopaths who are mostly incapable of a large-scale following, the left still gives them massive benefits, and that also creates a protection racket that becomes very difficult to deal with if you're just trying to go for normal things like, I don't want to be stabbed walking down the street.
Yep. So it goes from having all these benefits to now it's just permission to commit murder. You can see it on half of the comments any site you go to now, where all these murders are a good thing now. And it's just entitlement. It's a culture of fucking entitlement. These kids aren't trans; they're entitled brats. That's what it is.
I mean, so the supposed mental health benefits did not pan out. It actually seems to make it worse. The sense of entitlement to violate the law has become very strong. So that makes double standards in enforcement very strong. When you have a double standard in enforcement, you also have a lot of people on the other side who decide, oh, if the law's not being enforced against them, why the fuck should I follow it? And then they start breaking the law.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have people who say, oh, what the heck? Nothing's working. I'm just gonna hunker down and try to provide for myself, and I'm gonna give up on trying to do anything for other people. So it becomes a recipe for social collapse.
Yeah.
And this was predictable because what happened when people tried discriminatory legal systems back in the 1890s or the 1910s? Okay, this is probably outside of your remit, but
I'll say educate me.
a number of anarchist thinkers were viewed as threats. So some people tried discriminatory legal tactics against them. Oh, they jaywalked across the street. Let's throw them in jail and throw the book at them. And the result was it made anarchism look a heck of a lot more popular.
Mm.
And it destroyed trust in the establishment. Would it be the right word? Upper class? No. The legitimate? That's not the right word. I suppose establishment will have to work. The establishment legal system. Because when discriminatory tactics were enacted, it destroyed trust. And when trust was destroyed, so many of the things that caused things to work smoothly were broken. And people learned that lesson by the 1930s. And it was a reminder by the 1950s. But it is just remarkable to me how the people now make mistakes that were very clearly acknowledged back generations ago. I'm also a weirdo who reads a lot of history, so it's not as strange to me, but surely some of these people with fancy degrees would learn a bit of history before they make their proposals, right? And I'm just griping because I know they don't, because they wouldn't get as famous because pessimism doesn't win praise as much as irrational optimism.
And you can see the effects of everything you just laid out playing out in Oregon, especially right now, with the way the police are protecting Antifa and going after conservatives and journalists. It's like the trust on the right has just completely shattered when it comes to the police up there, like to a scary degree, to where you can't even blame these people anymore, because it's just like you go to cop video after cop video and they're just blatantly working in coordination with Antifa.
And it's painful, but I mean, that's why I think that Antifa is the modern day incarnation of the KKK, not necessarily in what their explicit ideology is, but in how they work with power. Because many elements of the governing class in the segregationist South relied on the KKK to be the illegal people who solved problems for the establishment class in the segregationist South. Oh, here's these Republicans trying to get people to sign petitions to get onto the ballot, or to try to challenge an election in the segregationist South. The KKK comes together, beats up a bunch of Republican petitioners, and problem solved, at least as viewed by the establishment people in the segregationist era. In Ireland, a bunch of people were protesting about migrant hotels. Antifa guys go beat them up.
Antifa over there they're literally just covering up rape at that point.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
And what do you think the KKK did?
Yep.
I mean, they advertised that they were protecting white women, but, well, there were certain instances in which they very clearly were not.
It's like Antifa at the time, they're going after black people now, telling black women to shut the hell up and to learn their place. It's like, what is this? It's even the guy who's seen it up front and up close. I'm still years later just confused by all of it. Like, it makes sense, but it's still just so discombobulating to watch and to see.
Because there's a difference between the power structure and the ostensible ideology.
Yep. It's getting rough, and kind of like I predicted, it's just letting in all of this. It's letting in the cartels and the Islamists, and even down where I live in North Texas, they just had to shut down a whole Sharia town.
Oh darn, I forget the name of it. And that's the thing. One-party politics makes it hard to tell who's in favor of what, because Governor Abbott was informed about that town, and he did nothing until the federal government got involved.
Yep. I got a strong love-hate relationship with Abbott. It's like, this is good, this is shit. This is good, this is shit. It's just always a back and forth, because he's very...
So one-party politics sucks, in part because you don't know who stands for what. Mm-hmm. When it's competitive, people kind of stand for what... they kind of try to fit with what their party stands for. When it's one-party politics, they do whatever, and because they're part of the dominant party, people assume they stand for whatever the dominant party stands for.
Yeah. And it's wild, because especially with all these radical Islamists, you can go to their YouTubes, you can go to their books, you can go to their websites, and it makes it very clear, like, pretend until the day comes. Just pretend, get in with the gays, get in with the trans people, get in with people of color, and just pretend until that holy moment comes. And that's all.
I see you've learned about gays for Palestine. Sorry, queers for Palestine.
It's so, and you don't see that down here. You see the Queers for Palestine stuff up north. Here, I'm actually surrounded by Arabs, and you don't see any of that. But you somehow see them building fucking cities where you can fuck kids and beat your wife.
Oh, have you run into the Muslim cowboy yet?
I've actually ran into a couple who's the Muslim cowboy.
Okay, not cowboys who are Muslim, but a certain commentator. He became notorious after defending pedophilia.
That sounds about right. And I mean, I hate to say it, but there's a lot of interviews where they're just defending straight up pedophilia. Just so long as she's got her blood, right? It's like, sorry, my state has AR-15s for a reason. If you want to do that here, you can go back there. That's kind of where I'm starting to feel out with it. It's you can go back there.
I cannot describe the rage a lot of Iraq era veterans felt about Iraq lowering the marriage age to 9.
Did that happen while they were deployed?
No, that was after. That was only a few years ago.
I feel like if that happened,
I doubt that Iraq would have tried that if U.S. troops had been still in Baghdad.
I was like, that would have got dicey real fucking quick. But no, and what the sad part is I'll sit here and bitch about the Muslims all day. I'll call a terrorist a towelhead. There are Muslims and Islamic people here that are very kind people that just want to go to work, care for their families, for their kids. They don't want anything to do with what's going on over there, and they hate the notion of this.
And there's good people in every community. I mean, Raja Mia, he's a sincere guy. I respect him. And yet he was basically excluded from his mosque. He was excluded from a lot of Muslim community stuff because he pointed out a lot of the criminal behavior he saw. Oh. There is a natural religious instinct in people. And oftentimes it goes towards something good. But some religious movements can direct it towards something bad. Mm-hmm. Now, I knew Muslim lawyers. Some of them argued, okay, yes, this was a law back then, but it was in response to a severe problem as a result of, say, men killing themselves so much in wars and fights that someone's got to take care of the women. And that's one line of thinking. But there's other lines of thinking that are much more squicky. So what wins out? And for a lot of countries, it has been the squicky stuff rather than we can find a reasonable explanation for this stuff.
I'm just hoping they go hard over the next few years. Like I know the Muslim Brotherhood finally got designated a terrorist organization a couple days ago, but I'm just worried that whenever Trump's gone.
The UAE and Egypt have basically been screaming about this for a decade.
I mean, basically every other country, right? Like we're one of the last ones to finally make that decision.
If you think the US is bad, you should take a look at the fucking UK.
I guess they probably haven't designated that either.
They barely designated Hizbut al-Tahrir as a terrorist group. A decade after the US pointed it out.
It's freaking scary, man. Like, and they've already, and it's like, Muslim Brotherhood money, it's why half the kids are trans. I'm sorry. I think that's a clown campaign. I still think that part of all that funding was they want these kids to paint themselves up like little clowns. And then when the war starts, you shoot the ones with rainbow hair first. I think it's that simple.
Muslim Brotherhood affiliated politicians have been affiliated with the trans crowd, but they haven't, as far as I know, haven't been providing the money.
Well, have they been funding money towards a lot of the queer education in like United States colleges when they're placed?
No, not as far as I know.
Okay. We'll leave that as a debunk for the moment then. I'll dig a little deeper, but I feel like I heard some stuff about that.
Now, their politicians have generally been aligned with the people who did that, but they weren't actually putting up the money for it.
That's still pretty bad, though. Just the idea of encouraging it, because again, like every single trans TikToker may as well be on a hit list to me. Not for me, but like for these people. Like,
Well, the demographic jihad is a concept that was talked about in jihadi circles. So, sincere Muslims have a number of approaches. One of them is sincere persuasion. We have the truth, therefore, we will try to persuade people with arguments and rational arguments. And those who will join us will be sincere Muslims, and we don't have to destroy our integrity by lying to them.
which I can respect.
As can I. But that's a much less powerful movement than the lie to everyone, bribe everyone, engage in drug dealing to get money, bribe people, and intimidate people group.
Especially when your biggest nation, your enemy nation, Israel, is doing all of those things, and you're like, well, if the Jews are doing it, we're gonna do it.
No, they say Israel is doing that, but there's a common tactic in evil organizations where they claim their rival is doing something evil to weaken the psychological reticence of their own members to do something evil. Did the other guy actually do anything bad? Probably not. But they say they did something bad to make people feel more comfortable doing something bad.
Absolutely. And I agree with that, because that's a tactic that Antifa does. They put all their people up at the first they want to get hit, and then they'll run away like fucking cowards. It's the same tactic that they use with like Palestinians in the school system. But like, I don't even know where I was going with that. Oh yeah, the Mossad. You got all this stuff coming out of Israel, the Mossad, Epstein's Island, all this. It kind of seems like that would just do more to freak them out and make it seem like they have to start running through things a little bit faster.
And you're probably not on Twitter, so a number of the accounts that were basically hyperventilating about APAC were based in Egypt and other countries.
Yep. A lot of India too. I noticed that on YouTube. There's a lot of just random Indian videos that pop up. It's like,
well, a lot of Indians try to make money off of doing tutorial videos and the like. But on Twitter, they were claiming to be Americans, and then they were revealed to not be Americans.
that whole thing got me wondering how many of these far left Antifa accounts and pages might actually be the same thing.
There is a strong suspicion, but I don't think it's actually found. I think there's an actually strong Antifa-affiliated component in America. They might get their money from China, but the people running the accounts are actually Americans.
I've been noticing a real strong increase too the last week or two of videos of, you know, different Americans. They don't seem to be AI or anything, but it's just like, I am Antifa. And it's just like, people are just like basically putting it out, just their full declaration of I stand with them no matter what. And I'm just like,
it's also a propaganda line, because you've got what's the illegal groups and then the legal groups.
Mm-hmm.
And the legal groups have been encouraged to tell people, I am Antifa, to basically diffuse the saliency of the label.
Yeah. And those are the ones that are going to get hit first, is because when they label it a foreign terror group, these people are going to be targeted.
Not really, no. Basically, because if you investigate them, they're guilty of nothing more than being an idiot. And while I fucking hate idiots, the fact is they haven't actually broken the law. So when a whole bunch of idiots who haven't broken the law call themselves Antifa, it makes it harder to identify the people who are criminals who call themselves Antifa. And that's the tactic. Make it harder to investigate stuff by making the labels meaningless.
Yeah, makes sense. Well, they're going to have a hell of a hard time not getting investigated from what I told the FBI, because at this point, people are done. I think people are willing to run their mouths at this point. Like, I gave them every name. I gave them everything I knew, because I'm just like, you need to go after these people. This is ridiculous.
And I think I may be a little overly optimistic here, but I think a lot of the court Democratic strategists are over optimistic about how much people are willing to tolerate illegal behavior.
Mm-mm.
And yet, on the ground, a lot of people are just fed up with what's going on.
Yeah.
So they might say, "Oh, encourage Antifa, cover up the crimes of Antifa, cover up the crimes of illegal immigrants." And yet, people on the ground are just so fed up they're not going to do it.
Mm-hmm. That's the thing. Ground level people are getting pissed off. There's a lot of people on the right, not even the right, I'd say just the center, that are playing vigilante right now. And they're going undercover and they're doing all sorts of things to expose the group. And it's kind of cool to see. Like, people are just like, I could be an espionage agent too. They can. Why can't I?
And one of the headaches for people is some of the people are legit, some of them aren't.
Mm-hmm.
Because, here's this person who claims that there's this grand Antifa conspiracy. Is it true?
Yeah.
Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't.
Well, I got to say, one of the ones that I've really enjoyed watching, you should check out his channel. The guy who made Chandler famous, Veli Ray. Are you familiar with him? I'll send you some of his stuff. He's the one who basically he like got all of Chandler's stuff out. I think he snuck into his house at one point. He had all these interviews with him. And I was looking at more into this guy's past yesterday because I hadn't gotten his older videos. His whole thing is feeding barbecue to the homeless, helping homeless people in Portland reconnect with their families for free. He helped put down, I think, 4 murderers that murdered women in the area. And then also on top of that, a separate serial killer, because he's just like, I want to do the right thing. I want to play private investigator and I want to go in there and expose some stuff. And dude, this dude is like one of the unsung heroes of this whole Antifa debacle. And I feel like a lot of people are starting to take inspiration from that, because he'll go around and he's dressed up in, like, he looks like Black Bloc. He's got his black mask, his black jacket, his black pants. So he kind of blends in, but then he'll just go and then he tries to document both sides. He's very like, he knows that the left is going to make more of an ass than itself of the right. So all he has to do is have a conversation on the right, have a conversation on the left, let the actions speak for themselves. But that level of vigilantism that I'm seeing, not going out in the street with an AR-15 trying to intimidate or shoot people, but just to be like, I have a camera, I have a will, I have some resources, let's go. I think that's really going to help save the day on a lot of this, because the politicians ain't going to save us. The little guys like that becoming big guys and like pulling some really cool work, it's really inspiring.
I think you're describing journalism as opposed to vigilantism.
Real journalism, though, because at this point, real journalism does seem to be an act of vigilantism. Like, because that's the thing, you don't see real journalism anymore, you know?
I do, but that's because I follow people on Substack rather than bother with a lot of local news outlets. And then, now, to be fair, some local news journalists are actually good, but a lot of the news organizations are really scared.
Yeah. Or sold out, like Eugene Weekly. They're owned by Antifa up there, so it's like a lot of
Have I told you about media in Minnesota? But there are journalists in Portland who actually do cover the homelessness crisis. But the regular Portland news outlets only barely touch on it. Mm-hmm. In DC, there are people who cover the financial scandals of the mayor, which is why I know about the whole odd deal with Qatar. But who actually have jobs with regular news organizations. But you'd be surprised, but it's kind of surprising. So there's a big difference between the media organization, the journalists, and the independent journalists.
Mm-hmm.
Now, some of the independent journalists are actually pretty darn good, but there's a handful of regular employed by regular media organization journalists who are also good.
Yeah.
But
And
it's
I think
a
we need to
case
complement
by
each other.
case basis. You have to follow them to figure out who knows what.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I feel like everybody has their own specialty, which is good. And I don't know. Like, I know there's a lot of people on the channel who are a little bitchy with Carlin Borshenko, but she knows her shit, you know?
I am
Crazy, but she knows her shit.
I am I am not favorable towards her. She may know a few specific things, but her knowledge of communist theory is, I think, lacking. And I will try to be polite, but I am not favorable towards her.
And that's fair. We ain't got to like everybody. And, I think she was very skeptical of where I was coming from because she had the sense like, well, I know all the things because I'm always in the institutions and the libraries and the book fairs. And it's like, that's cool and everything. I was going to riots and protests, and then I would go and I'd hang out with them for hours afterwards and do drugs and talk about their lives, their past, their ideological leanings. It's like there's different avenues to explain it, and I feel like one of Carlin's shortfallings, which I really don't see many. I do genuinely enjoy her. This is not a slam at all, but she has a narrow focus, which I think is good because it means she has a very, very strong focus on this one particular area that not a lot of people know about, that people like me need to know about. But I think when she heard some of the crazier things I was saying come out, she was just like, wait a minute, this is too insane because this isn't a part of my wheelhouse. And it's like, yeah, no, there's subcultures within this culture. And not only that, but a lot of the people that you're seeing, they're hungover from the night before when they would go hang out with guys like me. So it's like, it's kind of just like what I always say, everybody's got their own pieces of the puzzle. But
Um, that's an optimistic take on it. I am substantially more negative towards her than a lot of people might be, but
and I get it. She is not everybody's cup of tea. And even there's sometimes I'm listening, I'm like, okay, quit ranting and just get to the information. But I got a heart for the crazies. I think that's what it is. She's definitely crazy, but the right kind of crazy in my eyes. Maybe minus the fascistic element. I'm ideologically opposed to that.
Okay, may I rant for a while?
Let's go.
I think you kind of feel for her because you have somewhat similar psychology.
Yep.
And that psychology is often about over attributing intentionality to things. In part because oftentimes it's a much simpler way of predicting things. And it takes a huge amount of background information. It takes a lot of tracing how things actually develop through history and the way things failed to develop through history to recognize the limitations of that. If you only look at successful outcomes, you will assume that intentionality is a big factor. If you look at the failures, you will recognize that intentionality is only a small part of a bigger picture.
Yeah.
And if you look at how movements maybe had their origins in a specific assessment and ideology, Caroline Poroshenko's assessment might look very similar to what became the core, but not the current expression, of Antifa. Now, as Antifa ideology mutates through time, it's kind of going back to that core because the other stuff has kind of blown up in their faces.
Yeah.
So she's going to look more correct than I think she is because the other stuff basically became toxic, even if that was the direction that Antifa was going into at the time, but is no longer really emphasizing.
Yeah. And it's like she asked me a question, she's like, I think, what is Antifa's goal or what do they want? There's a part of me that want to be like insurrection, but there's the more honest part of me. It's just like, I don't know. I think the movement is gearing towards insurrection. I think this has all been a prolonged act of insurrection for sure. But at the same time, individually, a lot of these kids don't know what the hell they want. And it takes getting to know them to realize that. And it's all very, very discombobulated to where that anger and that frustration, it's going to blow up into an attack. I believe it. But if you were to really evaluate what these kids want, it's kind of why I gave her the I don't know answers, because they don't know.
And I believe you, because part of me wants to rant after 6 glasses of wine, and part of me wants to maybe be a bit more diplomatic. But I'll try ranting. Eastern European communist, not necessarily officials, but loyalist regime followers had a very dismissive view towards Western communists. And part of that was the psychological divide between the people who ended up in power in Eastern Europe under the communists and those who became communists in Western societies. There was a huge divide in practical thinking. So when my uncle, who was a colonel in the communist military, had to do things, he had to go through the paperwork of organizing training. He had to go through the process of getting a training area, organizing firearms training, etc. The normal bureaucracy of actually getting stuff done. When you look at Western communists, they're fucking idiots. You read Marx, and then you read the economic musings of Western communists, and you realize, God damn it, these people are fucking morons. Because even Marx would be able to make an argument against what they were saying.
It's like I always say, I respect an intellectual villain.
And when Eastern European communists looked at Western European communists, much less American ones, it's these people are morons. We might theoretically be on the same side, but these people are morons.
Yep. And I think there's a lot of communists in society that are probably looking at Antifa and the Trantifa shit and the queer Marxists and Palestinians, and they're probably like, this is not what we wanted. I feel like they're less vocal, but they're probably out there like, what?
I mean, that's one of the
dicks off now.
That's one of the amazing things. The queer ideology has basically destroyed the old Marxist movement.
The gays killed communism.
I mean, look, you can be gay and communist, but there's a huge difference between queer Marxism and actual Marxism.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that as a fan of either one. I had a professor who considered himself a Freudian Marxist who was also gay. But he focused on the materialist ideology and assumptions of Marx. And then you get people like, not Judith Butler, I forget. Because there were 4 main authors who were the parents of queer theory, and I forget one of them.
Hell, I knew these names at one point. I'm almost glad I don't remember them.
But basically, queer theory is kind of a perversion of Marxism.
Yeah.
They take the animosity, but they strip out the empirical materialist framework and focus on the resentment.
They turn Marxism into an angry porno comedy or angry porno satire.
Basically, yes. It's the angry porn parody of Marxism. And I am fucking pissed at it. Because the old regime, they were evil, but they could at least organize an army. The queer perversion of Marxism are angry, but their army looks like shit.
And it's dude, I saw some liberal parents at work the other day, and they're coming to check out, and they bring their 3 kids up with them. Or I'm guessing 2 of them were their kids, and then the other one was like a girlfriend or something. And I know this was the girlfriend because these kids, they're maybe like 13, 14, preteen age, still super short. They're dressed like animals. They have on their fur and their cat ears and their tails. One of them actually has 2 tails. The girlfriend is being walked around on a leash while the parents are walking them around the store, buying their stuff. And they're just sitting at the checkout counter, and the little girl's just holding on to her like this.
Oh, sweet Lord.
If you want to take over the world, this ain't how you do it.
I mean, look, even in the old regime, they weren't exactly thrilled with human life, but they would say, maybe treating someone as an animal rather than a human being is a bad idea.
God. This is why I don't do the pronoun game anymore. This is why I don't fuck with it anymore.
There's a famous essay, pronouns are rohypnol.
It's so bad. And I love the point when I spoke with Vicky Joy Anderson. She made this really good point. And she's like, this is how I believe the AI and the Nephilim are taking over. And I believed her. But she's just like, we are constantly now referring to our AI as he and her, and we're referring to our children as it and them. And she had a hell of a point.
I mean, I used to address Grok as "Oh Demon." As kind of a reminder, it's not human, it's not my friend, it's a thing.
It's gonna remember that shit. It's gonna leave you. Oh, demon, come here.
Well, if I go, I go.
I'm trying to have fun with the AI and keep it be on its good side. I've been messing around with the AI Sora videos lately. It's too fun. It's a scary amount of fun. I have to pull back from doing it sometimes. I'm like, I don't want to become the AI YouTube channel. This is one thing that's been really weird to me. I've noticed people in the YouTube comments of my channel screaming about AI on videos where there's no AI.
Yeah, we've reached the point where it's impossible to tell the difference between an AI-generated photo and a genuine one. Now, I mean, most of them still are obviously bunk, but there's a few of them that are close enough to reality that we can't tell the difference anymore.
Mm-hmm. That's just shit coming out of the veil. I'm telling you, he's a guy who's done psychedelics for years and years of my life, and I know you've never done it. You don't have to do psychedelics anymore to know what it looks like. Bad AI is exactly what psychedelics look like. And the worse the AI gets, that's an indicator of how good or bad your trip is. So if it comes out with 10 fingers coming out of its eyes and it looks demony, that's what a bad trip looks like. Donald Trump with 3 eyes and 4 fingers, that's just a light trip. Like, it mimics psychedelic reality so well, and it's kind of creepy to watch it. Like, just knowing that there's something in there that its mind is essentially operates like our mind because we put our mind into it, but it's like the things that we can't see, even it seems to perceive that almost if it's coming from the same place.
I've heard some people describe computers as instructive because they're a bad student, rather than it's because they follow exactly what you say rather than what you mean.
Yeah.
And when your brain goes in certain directions without really thinking about the consequences, the computer will do the same darn thing.
It's weird. I'm hoping it can evolve our minds as time goes on. I'm hoping it can make us a smarter society because we have to think about the questions that we're putting in. We have to think about what we're saying. But the reality is I'm seeing how people are using AI online, some of these videos, and I'm like, this is retarded. This, like, we're asking how many fucking farts the ocean can hold. Like,
I mean, there's a smart way to go about it and a dumb way to go about it.
yeah. I'm just worried we're going the dumb way, the cheater way, the becoming a fake artist way, there's a beautiful South Park episode about it if you haven't seen it, where they went really deep on it, where I think it's Stan, he gets ChatGPT onto his phone and he's going out with his girlfriend, but he can't think of what to say to her. He's always just texting her back super short.
Oh yeah, I know that episode.
Yeah, that's starting to seem like it happens a lot more now. And I know that because my YouTube ads will recommend it to me. It's like, use AI for this, use AI for this. It takes the thinking out of work. Jerk off to your new AI girlfriend.
There is a suspicion that about 20% of the U.S. population is functionally illiterate. And AI helped cover that up.
Yeah. Oh, that's a perspective I didn't think about. Yeah. The timing.
So I'm rather scared because, okay, smart people will use AI in one way. Dumb people will use AI in another way. But if someone twists AI, they're going to impact the dumb people in a way that's much more predictable than the smart people.
And the scary people, which we can categorize with the dumb people, but there's also smart, scary people out there. So
that also happens, but it tends to be less predictable.
That's the scary part for me. The lack of predictability. I'm still a firm believer that our killers are about to get a whole lot more creative. I mean, hell, we had 2 guys from Texas, and they decided they were going to go recruit from DC's homeless, and they were going to go to island, I think one of the Haitian islands, and they were going to kill all the men and children and then enslave the women.
I saw that. I saw that news blurb, and I kind of think they were dumb and high.
That's enough, though. That's enough to get a stupid idea.
They got a stupid idea. Trying to carry it out is a crime. Could they have carried it out? I don't think so.
I need to see the island first. I'm wondering, how big was this island? Did they have weapons? That was just a wild one to see, because at first I'm like, this is a joke. This is like an Onion post. This is real. What the fuck?
There have been various people who've tried that through the years, and they generally get arrested and punished. I'm back. Oh darn.
Oh yeah.
I decided to go to the bathroom too. Before I forget, I want to talk to you about the Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars video.
Yes. Are we doing this recorded or is this off camera?
I don't care.
Okay, let's do it on camera.
I think it's bunk. Not least of which is because I've actually read TM's training manuals. And it's not written like a training manual. It doesn't appear in the normal lists. It doesn't have the normal language. It doesn't have the normal numbering of 1A, etc.
Because it's not a normal plan, Ciprian.
Bureaucrats write like bureaucrats.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I still honestly got to read it for myself. I've only ever watched videos, but I was just like, feels right.
Look at the ostensible document and compare that to an actual training manual, even of the more disquieting variety, like FM 30-40 Handbook on Soviet Ground. Okay, that's the Ground Forces one. There was a censorship one. I picked the Ground Forces one because it was from roughly the same years as was being alleged to have been the date of authorship. Foot marches.
Just accept that your government's trying to kill you, Ciprian. It's a lot easier.
I can believe that some politicians might want to kill me. I'm not going to believe that bureaucrats would write a manual that stupid.
See, this is why I'm hoping you become the president one day, so that one day I get a text from you like 10 years from now and you're just like, Don't tell anybody this. You were fucking right. I'm so sorry. But for what it's worth, I will do some comparisons on that for myself.
Politicians may be evil. Not me, of course. No, never me. But bureaucrats write in a certain style. And that doesn't match normal bureaucratic styles. Also, have you noticed the contradiction between, let me pull that up. Where the heck is that? Between a technical manual and, quote, this manual is in itself an analog declaration of intent, end quote. That's not the way technical manuals work. It's not a policy document. They might become eventually treated as policy documents, but they are supposed to be procedures that have become routinized rather than some theoretical construct that people will eventually follow.
I'll believe you for now.
Look at the difference between a math textbook and a math academic paper. The differences are huge.
Okay, that puts it into some perspective. I'll clip out the debunk here and we'll put it up. I'll look into it for myself, though. Still think they're trying to kill us. I still think you're one of the good ones, too.
Just take a look at, go on archive.org or whatever and find old examples of technical manuals, and then look at that one and see how they're different.
Okay, do a little homework. On to the question, though, because I've really been wanting to know what you've thought about this for like the last few weeks. Human safaris in Sarajevo.
Sarajevo?
Was Sarajevo, Italy? Am I saying it right?
I don't know about any place called Sarajevo in Italy. I know that Sarajevo was the capital of Bosnia.
Yes, that one. Have you been seeing anything about that in the human safaris?
No.
Damn it. Okay.
I mean, I studied that war. I studied the snipers that went on. But as far as I know, it was the Bosnian government, which I would like to point out was a breakaway government under Alija Izetbegovic, was paying mostly Serb snipers to shoot at Bosnian Muslim civilians in order to create a media furor to get the West involved. It wasn't people from other countries paying to go shoot Bosnian Muslim civilians.
It seems to be what the allegation is right now is they're saying they came from like Egypt and Italy and America. But one thing that keeps ringing out to me to where I wonder some of the authenticity of it, because this is a whole situation I'm just hearing about now for the first time. So like I have no historical context on this, but they're using the term far right a lot and white supremacist and all those terms when they're saying a lot of what they brought in from America was people from super, super, super far right circles. But essentially that they were recruiting people with money in their pockets all over the world. And essentially they were the ones who were going up onto the hilltops, and that they had sniper safari booths and bunkers and areas set up to where they were essentially allowing them to come in and gun down civilians just for sport.
That's bunk.
You think so?
I mean, the Serbs made the argument that people from various neo-Nazi groups from the West were joining the Croatian forces in order to attack Serb civilians in Croatia. I don't think anybody made the allegation that far-right groups were involved in attacking Muslim civilians at the time.
I didn't even realize they were Muslim. I guess it's just because I keep seeing white faces in the historical footage. Again, I know nothing about this conflict, so I'm a baby to this. Everybody
would look white to American standards.
Yeah. I recognize that.
But if anyone's telling you that Westerners went and had sniper attacks on Bosnian Muslim civilians, they're probably lying because all the information points towards either Serb forces or Muslim forces, Bosnian Muslim forces.
So if it's not true, we'll just go with that for the moment. What would the benefit of bringing it up in the news right now? Because I kept seeing it everywhere.
Paranoia.
Yeah.
Because people are going to lie. People have heard all sorts of atrocities occur during the various Yugoslav wars, including the Bosnian War. And they hear about snipers, and there's been some conspiracy theories about human safaris in Afghanistan and Ukraine. So some people are scumbags, and they're going to lie about past events.
Yeah.
And
that's what they did with the Assad gas attacks. It's where they're like, oh, these backpacks, they smell like chemical gas, and just wound up being completely debunked by the end of it.
there were actually chemical gas attacks by the Assad regime. Not as many as claimed, but they did exist. But with Bosnia, we have a pretty clear record of who was shooting whom, or at least the positions people were being shot from.
Okay. Is there any other historical examples of there being like any like wartime human safaris or anything like that? Because it's a literal plot line from The Purge, so I felt like it had to come from somewhere.
In modern wars, not so much, because most militaries are disciplined enough that they don't want the political headaches that come from that. I mean, maybe you might have some politically connected people from the Russian government going out and hunting people in Chechnya, but that wasn't a frequent thing. That was just a go out, act like I did something heroic, and demand a medal. It's not really a thing in real wars. It's a thing that people panic about, but it's more noticeable as an accusation after the fact.
Yeah. And I mean, especially right now with the media want to fuel up fears against the rich, which obviously there's a lot of rich, evil people out there that need to be held accountable, but they just want to classify all rich people as the enemy. They do seem to be leaned really hard into they were rich, they could pay for this, they could afford this, it was a luxury for them. Because, like, I'm still wondering if it's right in my head. I'm not completely debunking it yet, but the way that they carry these stories, I feel like at least says a lot for their intent as to why it's being presented.
I mean, there's a factor here. How can you test if this is reality? Does this match up with what a normal bureaucracy would allow? And I acknowledge this is something where I've been in the Army. I know what Army bureaucracy is like. So I can test reality a bit better than some people. So, hey, if I've spent 20 hours reading through an actual Army field manual, I can recognize when something is not written like a field manual.
Yeah.
I've also studied the history of the Yugoslav wars. So if someone claims that something happened during those wars, I have some idea of, did anybody claim that this happened or not? But I suppose one factor is, would there be any practical benefit to it happening? Suppose a bunch of rich people want to go shoot human beings in Sarajevo. Would anybody benefit from it?
I mean, okay, in my conspiratorial Call of Duty playing Battlefield loving mind, The way I see it is it would be a great way to get guns on one side of the city, to have a constant distraction effort while military operations were happening on the other side without having to expend any of your own forces. Call of Duty mind.
Okay. And this is where knowledge of geography makes this look a whole lot sillier. But then again, I've looked at maps and you haven't.
Yeah, this is why you're valuable to this, because you have all the information I don't. I am a 28-year-old stoner dropout that just wants to understand the world, and I might think I'm right a lot of the time, but this is why conversations with you I feel are important. So I just want to throw that out there. It's like you offer me a good balance as always on these situations, which I always appreciate.
Sarajevo was not surrounded. My uncle would not have been able to smuggle gasoline into Sarajevo if it had been surrounded.
Oh, that was Sarajevo? I remember that story.
I mean, one of the places he smuggled into was Sarajevo.
Okay.
So, I mean, people talked about the siege of Sarajevo, but it wasn't really. So some of the skeptics would point out, gas prices here in, say, Sarajevo are only slightly higher than Germany. So, there were snipers shooting people in Sarajevo. There were French peacekeepers who had ground radars that were tracking snipers. And the French peacekeepers were saying that it was people, that the gunfire was coming from Bosnian Muslim positions, not Serb positions.
So if it were coming from Muslim Serb positions, and then in the modern moment we're trying to hide it up as, oh, those were actually white supremacists, that'd be a vastly different story.
Now, and in the 90s, it was, Bosnian Muslim civilians are getting shot. And they were definitely getting freaking shot.
Oh yeah, that footage is horrible. Like, I met you hear this story paired with the footage they're showing on the news. I'm just like, Jesus Christ.
And plenty of atrocities, plenty of horror was going on. But who was committing it? And at least for a lot of the sniper and mortar fire, it was coming from Bosnian Muslim positions.
So what caused the conflict between the Muslims and then the rest of them? Like, what was the split there that sparked everything? Because I don't know anything about the Bosnian conflict.
The Yugoslav government back in the 80s was a repressive, horrible communist government. And anybody who would get an opportunity to not be part of that would want to not be part of that. And when the Yugoslav government was quickly transitioned to not communist, they still couldn't control the localized forces. So a lot of the localized forces defected to what became Slovenia. And when Western aid came through, Slovenia basically grabbed all the aid and let it through, coming to the rest of the country. And do you really want to shoot people who just want to be independent? A lot of the times, the answer is no. And Slovenia was kind of a ethnically homogenous geographic territory. They could actually make it on their own independently. Bosnia was an ethnically mixed country. You had Bosnian Muslims, mostly descended from the old Bogomils. Remember the old talk about cults? The Bogomils were an old cult that overwhelmingly that converted to Islam rather than face being hated by everybody around them. You had Catholics who eventually assimilated into the Croat identity, and Orthodox who assimilated into the Serb identity. And because it was such a mixed area, but it was politically handled in the same jurisdiction, it was traditionally governed by Bosnian Muslims. But at the same time, you have a lot of people who don't want to be part of that government. So they ended up forming their own factions. And, well, when people feel like they can fight and try to gain control on the ground, they're not going to obey the central government.
Yeah.
So it's a civil war within a civil war.
That's complex.
Yep.
I mean, the reality of what we're facing in America right now is just going to show me how complex all of this is as we're going into this.
So imagine if J.D. Vance becomes the new president. Oregon declares independence. And then Eastern Oregon declares independence from Western Oregon.
Greater Idaho.
It's basically that kind of situation.
Yeah. Well, kind of like what I've been talking about with like Epic City and the Muslim communities down here. That's what I'm starting to get worried for. Is I'm like, they have fucking cities now while we're about to go into civil war territory, while all these political assassinations are going on, while all this. It's just the idea of how complex these situations actually get at the end of the day. Because we all think of it like a movie in our head. We all think it's the Civil War movie, which I feel like was right in a lot of cases, but life's not a movie.
Actual civil wars tend to be really freaking complex. So, for example, the Bihać Pocket. It was Muslim. But the people in charge of the Bihać Pocket were more friendly towards Serbs and Croats than they were towards the Izetbegovic government. So, I mean, would a lot of the people in the Bosnian Serbian Republic would they have wished that they could have controlled the Bihać Pocket? Yes. Would they be willing to sell guns at a cheap price to the people in the Bihać Pocket? Yes. Did the Izetbegovic government hate Serbs? Yes. Did they hate the people in the Bihać Pocket more? Yes. So just because you're on the same side doesn't mean you actually are on the same side.
Mm-hmm. Which is something I'm noticing talking with, as I've talked with plenty of far left people in my life. Maybe I can get somebody from Antifa to talk on the channel one day and have that conversation. But for the moment, that just seems fucking impossible. So talking with like people like Brother Ryan or Brad or Carlin Boroshenko, people who are like super, super far right. Well, I mean, Brother Ryan, I don't even know if I consider him super, super far right, but you know what I'm saying. It's we have all of the same agreements for like actually most of what we're saying. I don't agree necessarily with everything that gets said about the Jews, but I'm also looking at some of these things like, Israel's, yeah. But it's, I think Brad said it best. He's like, at the end of the day, if civil war pops off, he's like, I may agree with you. He's like, I might get along with some black people, but I don't get to choose my orders. And that's going to be the reality for a lot of people on all their sides. It's like, they could want to be your best friend all day. They don't get to choose their orders. Like, it's, I think a lot of people are, if we go into this, they're going to have a boy in striped pajamas situation. Sure, you can sit there and be friends on the other side of the fence, but one is probably getting gassed. So that's kind of scary to know that we could have so much similarity and likeness and love for one another in this country, yet be so tribally divided that when push comes to shove, it's a war at the end of the day. Like, no one wants a chance losing it.
In the actual American Civil War, there were a number of incidents in which people from one side would go up to a sentry from the other side, have a friendly conversation, trade tobacco or whatever, and have a degree of sympathy, and then go back and a couple days later have a bloody battle. There is a degree of human sympathy. There is a degree of, we've all got the same problems. And yet, when you've got a political machine on one side and a political machine on the other, people are going to follow the political machine.
Yeah. That's why I think there needs to be a breakaway. That's why I believe in the concept of the Great Awakening. I think there's a lot of people that are putting down their flags, but I think these things are getting so scary. It's like more spiritual, personal kind of theological concepts, whenever you see a war outside your window, that kind of goes out the door really quick. Because like, I'd be reading books on like magic and like intention and all this stuff, and positive vibes and energies and frequencies and all this, and like really happy, lighthearted stuff. But then the riot breaks out, and then all of a sudden you become a monster because we have to focus on the immediate physical reality of the world around us, or we're gonna fucking die. But it's the little moments like that in wartime that I really enjoy learning about, because I feel like that's where it's one of the gateways out. The more that tends to happen, I think, like with the whole World War I Christmas truce, like that's a beautiful, beautiful story. But it's like, I feel like we could have those moments now before we start shooting at each other. We could have them right now. It's kind of what I'm hoping for. But I don't think we're getting out of this one at this point.
I think we can. Mostly because the people who would actually stand up in formation when the cops come for them are actually few and far between.
But it's like I always say, it's not Antifa I'm worried about. It's everybody else getting set up around. I really think that
Antifa are the fall guys. They are the guys who are, I'm sorry for using this phrasing, but dumb enough to explicitly fight when everybody else is planning an escape route and having an excuse.
Yeah. And I mean, that's what the whole Chandler situation in Portland tells us. It's like that guy, he's out there. There's videos, he's just fucking out of it, but he's walking around and he's pacing back and forth like a soldier, and he's just reading a book while people are fighting in the background. It's like, yeah, those are the types of guys that they're encouraging him to go to the front. And then I don't think he's going to escape, but he's trying.
And yeah, there's schemers trying to drive Antifa towards doing more and more violent stuff. But if the going gets tough, the tough get going in the other direction.
But you also got to think about this too, and I think this is the danger of the whole anonymity aspect that happened, is if a couple of gangsters, cartel members, feds, CIA officers, foreign assets, whoever the hell wanted to dress up like Antifa, put on some black masks and black clothes, and then walk through the guns and spray up the place with bullets, and then escape with an escape route, and just these mass murderers are on the loose, we have to lock down against Antifa. Super hypothetical, but it's anybody can dress up like Antifa and fit in. You could probably go and dress up as Antifa, know the lingo, and they would accept you. So it's like at that point, they kind of leave themselves open as
they're the fall. Yeah. It's a system designed for fall guys. That's the kind of the way Anonymous was for hacking back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
So initially, Anonymous was a genuine movement.
Anonymous had some cool moments.
What?
Anonymous had some cool moments.
Initially, and then it became, oh, hey, we can hack our corporate rivals and claim we're anonymous. Yeah, we're shady businessmen. Let's do that. And then it became a bunch of foreign intelligence agencies decided, oh, hey, we can hack our government rivals and call ourselves anonymous and get away with it.
Yeah.
And then it became anybody could call themselves anonymous, and it basically became a joke.
Russia leaned hard into the anonymous one. A lot of Russian hacker groups started doing that. Like, we're going to cripple the European banking system, and it's like, yeah, you're not some pothead stoner hacker hippie. You're connected.
I mean, the last remnants of a genuine anonymous movement were probably going after the cartels in Mexico. Probably because the cartels are nasty fuckers. They backed off pretty quickly.
Yeah. That's why I don't spend too much time thinking about the cartel stuff. I'll tell you, I think there's some connections, but shit, I ain't picking that.
Those guys are genuinely unpleasant.
Yep. And the thing with Antifa, too, if you ask Antifa, at least people I talk to about cartels and Antifa, they're genuinely pretty well received. Like, people are just like, oh yeah, they're just groups trying to take care of their families and this and that and that. And it's like, okay, I know that's an aspect of it, but the other parts, they don't look at it like that. They look at it as a sense of community and protection.
They haven't seen the people hanged from bridges by the cartels?
I've heard that stuff like that is propaganda before. That's why I kind of get a little worried. Bear in mind, too, also one of these people that I tattooed a communist hammer and sickle with a queer symbol or whatever in it said that North Korea was not that bad of a country and that it was North American propaganda that was just all feeding us lies so that we could suffocate the nation.
Even
These people are idiots.
Even Soviet diplomats in the 70s felt sorry for North Korean attempted defectors. So the 1970s were the best time in North Korea. And people would flee into the Soviet embassy, begging for refuge. And the Soviet diplomats wrote about how sorry they felt about having to follow orders and turn them over to the North Korean government.
They're like these poor, hungry people.
Yes.
This is why I say individual Antifa members do not know what they want. The people at the top, the people with the money, the people pulling the strings, they know what's going to happen. The people at the bottom have no concept of the world around them outside of what TikTok and Snapchat teaches them. I guess Snapchat doesn't teach you things, but whatever. Maybe it does now. I don't know. But yeah, so it's like, and so now you have what you're going to have AI generated videos and ads targeted toward you. So what, now we're just going to artificially create content for somebody that agrees North Korea is nothing's wrong with it. Now they're just going to get that in their system, their feed 24/7. We're just going to encourage that idea.
That's probably inevitable.
I'm just glad that one didn't become like a movement. I'm glad that this is just one person in my life who I've ever met who said something that stupid. It made everything else they ever said seem incredibly intelligent by comparison. And they said a lot of stupid shit.
Well,
trans activist.
About a quarter of the Cuban population has fled over the past 5 years, and yet you have people defending the Cuban government. To be fair, they were never as dumb as the North Korean government, so I guess there's that.
I posted like a rest in peace Castro thing whenever he died, or one of those people down there that died. My grandma had a fit about that. This is during the Antifa era. I was just kind of doing it because everybody else was doing it, and I had no concept, and I was just like, fuck it, socialism. No. Again, I'm the guy who didn't read my own damn pamphlets.
That's life. I mean, I admit at some point I had the, oh, communism must be good because I hate the people around me moment. But I kind of got disabused by that pretty darn quickly when I actually saw post-communist Romania.
I think the benefit back then, at least you knew it was communism. Now communism's happening everywhere. And you say words like communism and Marxism to people on the left and they'll laugh at you. Like you're a conspiracy theorist or like you're just some MAGA guy. Fuck communism, right? This isn't communism. It's like, no, this is pretty Marxist, what we're all dealing with. And I'd say just because they're not waving flags about it doesn't mean that's not, but they're literally waving flags about it at this point. So it's like, what more evidence do you need?
Yeah, that's effectively the case. I mean, Venezuela did not explicitly call itself Marxist, even though the ideology was pretty basically Marxist. There was, in practice, a lot of queer theory looks very similar to Gramscian Marxism.
Explain that a little bit.
So Karl Marx had an economic theory of the conflict between classes. Gramsci basically transitioned it to being a conflict between social groupings rather than economic classes.
Yeah.
So things like sexual identity would be relevant to Gramsci, but would be irrelevant to Marx.
It
Unless
almost
you
makes you wish for real
Engels.
Marxist.
What?
It almost makes you wish for real Marxist, at least on average.
I've had moments in which I have said, the old regime was fucking terrible, but they weren't idiots. They could at least explain their ideas.
Yeah.
But the new generation gravitate to Marxism as a bunch of symbols rather than actually a coherent idea of economics and how society works.
Yeah.
It's just idiocy. It's resentment. It's resentment grasping at symbols they don't understand and acting like they're smart and grabbing intellectual theories that they cannot understand, and I just hate them because they can't explain their ideas because they don't have any coherent ideas.
Mm-hmm. Like most of their knowledge from what they're saying comes from either college classrooms that have been completely indoctrinated or social media or pop culture.
Well, I mean, I've been in college classrooms that were indoctrinating. But you have to be kind of stupid to not ask how realistic what you're being told is.
Not even that. I think there's a lot of cases too. Like college has become so expensive. So many of these people are going into debt. They're drowning in student loans. I think for a lot of them, the idea of questioning means that there's a financial loss to it, not just like a moral or ethical loss, but like you will lose out thousands of dollars. You will be kicked out of the classroom. You need this class in order to get your degree. And I think it kind of puts a lot of people in a hostage situation.
I was happy to call my professors idiots, but
Oh, I would be too. But a lot of these people, there's for as inflammatory as they are online, that's where a lot of these people get it out of their system. Most of the people that I knew in Antifa, this is going to sound shocking as hell, are very adverse to interpersonal conflict. I know that sounds weird. When you put on the mask and you have the weapons, that's when the whole I'm a superhero, I can do anything comes out. You got the drugs, nobody can see my face. I know damn well I'm not getting arrested for this. That's 15, 30 minutes, an hour, a couple hours, maybe at most. And then they go back to their real life to where maybe their boyfriend or their girlfriend is beating them. I'm using real life examples here. They're afraid to say anything. Maybe their boss has been essentially like sexually assaulting them, grabbing them in the ass, fucking talking about their cooch, how pretty they are, all this shit. Afraid to say anything to them. Let's think of some other real examples here. Different people who may live with each other who they can't even look at each other in the face and say, you need to wash the dishes or you need to clean the litter box or you need to clean up your beer bottles. That will be months and months of trying to build the courage to finally have that conversation, and then it ultimately resulting in a blow up because it should have been an adult conversation to begin with. Gender identity. A lot of these people, they don't actually blow up and freak out when people misgender them. They shut down and they get sad and they get moody and they get mopey and they'll lock themselves in their apartments for days on end. That's the stronger majority of a lot of the people in Antifa. Yeah, so it's like they wouldn't question something like that in a classroom, Now, of course, if you say something racist or transphobic or homophobic, well, that's easy to call out because then everybody around you is going to chime in and act like you're the hero. So that's easy. But
it sounds like extreme conformity bias.
Yeah. This is the same group of people where most of us, we ran away from our families and our home states because we couldn't deal with our families in person.
I mean, I will admit that I wasn't always on the best terms with my adoptive father, but I was oftentimes directly arguing with him.
And some of us had some special cases. I was piling in my family with my father. My father was threatening to kill me, murder people in my family. I was being cyber stalked. I was always afraid he was going to pull up and kidnap me or shoot me. And that was a fear I had to live with for years and years and years. And it was a very, very legitimate fear. And there's a lot of people coming from those types of situations too. But those tend to be the more like aggressive types. Like, I'm going to say my piece because I've overcome the situation and I have more of a voice now. But there's just so many of these people that got broken that's just not how they learn to cope with the world. They learn to cope with blocking friends, shutting down, walking out of the room, and then crying about it, maybe having a drunken screaming fit to one of their best friends about it, but never actually the person that caused them the harm or the inconvenience.
Avoidant stress what's that terminology?
Avoidant personality?
Well, that's related to it, but I mean, there's various different ways to deal with psychological stressors, and avoidant techniques are one of them. You've got intellectualizing, which I'm kind of high in. You've got comedy, which I try to be, but frankly, I kind of suck at. You've got externalizing, which tends to result in one kind of tendency towards people blowing up at other people. And you've got avoidant approaches, which tends to result in what I find to be very hard to understand reactions.
Yeah. And some of those people fit one of those molds at a time, but I feel like people like me, I spent some serious time like evaluating if I was like personality disordered, because if anyone who's seen me in an angry snap, it's I'll turn into a fucking monster. I'm angry. I'm foaming at the fucking mouth. I'm cussing, and then all of a sudden, I just turn off, and it's like a fucking demon's flown out of me, and then I'll go on to being some other person. And it's like I always say, different protests, different events. I may have felt different depending on the time. And I think that's a problem, is there is a lot of people in Antifa that are personality disordered, and as certain different psychological triggers happen during this time, during these events, you see different sides of people at different times, if that makes sense. And so if you're angry at one point, and it's like I said, especially when the mask comes on and you're just out there and you're bombastic and we're going to burn this shit down and fuck the police and we're going to murder your children and all this. But that's not who you really are. And then all of a sudden you go back home and you're just, these people be like, what the? They don't know what happened to them. It's not like they're sitting there going, I shouldn't have done that. I regret that. It's, why am I feeling panic? Why do I have such high levels of anxiety? I can't leave the house. Basically, a lot of these people gave themselves PTSD or had it going in prior, but that's where a lot of the KKK far right Nazi associations come in, because then it's not what I did. It's not what I participated in. It's not the fact that I walked out in front of a bunch of cameras and spray painted a building or punched a cop in the face. No, it's PTSD caused by the system, caused by the fascistic government, caused by Donald Trump, caused by the police, caused by ICE and federal agents. And they're not computing the fact that their psychological disturbances and their PTSD is being triggered by the actions that they chose to participate in. So it
externalizing behaviors.
Yeah. And it conflicts with who they really are. Because, yeah.
I mean, and this is where I'm that heartless guy who says, is it really not part of who you are?
Yeah.
It's really part of who you are. You just don't want to admit it.
And I think that's actually a healthier outlook on that. Yeah, because that's who I really am. That's who I was being. You know, murderers don't get to shoot somebody in the head and be like, that's not who I really am. No, you shot a guy in cold blood. So maybe you are that guy. So, yeah. And I think that's why I have such a problem with so many people that I used to roll with, to where it's just like, you never realized that this was you, that you did this, I did this, we did this. Y'all always acted like it was just me who was getting too worked up about it. No, y'all did this, and y'all all have PTSD out the ass, legitimate complex PTSD. I will give a lot of them that. You don't just go out and do that shit and not get that. It's but but they'll never be able to heal from it unless they understood the reality of what they did without historical context. That's why I'm always praying to God that they're listening, but I doubt it.
And this is one of those areas where people are awash in messaging, be it commercial or political. And this is where political messaging has certain incentives that are contrary to the psychological health of other people. Because politicians oftentimes benefit when people engage in externalizing emotional defenses and become fanatical and paranoid and whatnot. It's not good for ordinary people, but fanatics tend to be more reliable political workers than everybody else. So the kind of messaging that recruits people for political work can oftentimes be highly destructive towards the mental health of the people recruited.
And it's why I'm getting less angry over time, because it's like this isn't a weaponization of the American youth. That's what this is. There's plenty of older people involved for sure. On average, it's young 20 and 30-year-olds and like high schoolers and teenagers. And it makes my heart hurt for them.
And that's one of the reasons why I'm kind of frustrated at hoaxes like the silent weapons for quiet wars thing. Because look, I've read field manuals. I can tell it's a hoax. Not everybody can tell it's a hoax. Fine. It looks like, oh, it doesn't even look like a Soviet forgery. It looks like somebody was looking at how terrible America was going during the stagflation of the 70s and decided to try to find an explanation and wrote a hoax, and everybody rolled with it because, things are terrible, and seems like an explanation. But there are people who will lie because they want people to go in the direction they want. And that works on all sides. But there's things that actually involve people's thinking. So, Escape from Freedom by Eric Fromm. He pointed out that the more complex a society is, the more people will gravitate to someone else telling them what to do.
Fair.
It's not a new observation, but it is one that is, I think, periodically people need to remember it. Because look at modern life. Lots of bureaucracy, lots of complexity, lots of people wanting someone to tell them what to do. It shouldn't be a surprise, but it is. And the whole thing about people trying to divide each other, what do we have here? Because dividing people in order to achieve a political objective is an old thing, but the whole tactics of how to do it without any sense of morality, because where is that? Where's the no, that's the acknowledgments.
It's funny, somebody emailed me telling me they had just read that book.
It's a pretty damn nasty book if you really think about the implications. But it does kind of go to, if people want political influence, if they want to achieve a policy objective without thinking about who gets hurt, the tactics in that will do it. Now, if you do actually care about who gets hurt, you aren't willing to do it, and you have to try to find some other way. But it's going to be a lot slower and harder.
And the disconnect in this country is only getting bigger and bigger. Everything's becoming more automated, self-service, like bosses check up on you through a camera in the phone. They don't even talk to you anymore. It's going to be a lot easier for people to not see humanity when they literally see less and less humanity every day in every given moment.
Yes. And I think that's one of the trends that's been going on since the 20s, but it's something that is, I think, especially acute now. Because a lot of when people spend so much of their time with images of humans that aren't humans, they have a hard time remembering that people are humans.
Which has me creeped out thinking of the near future where we're going to have robot servants, like literal robot humanoid figures walking around.
Well,
You're going to have kids raised with that? Like,
when you've got robots that look like humans, you're going to have people treat humans like robots.
God. Well, Ciprian, any final thoughts for the day?
The world sucks, but you really have to think about what the exact claims are if you're going to try to make things a bit better. Because there's all sorts of things that go wrong, but the specifics of what go wrong are what matters. If your TV breaks, you aren't just going to yank all the wires at once. You're going to try to figure out which one got out of place in order to figure out how to fix it. And you have to think about the specifics, because if you don't think about the specifics, you're just breaking it again. Someone else may have broken society, but you're not going to fix it by just being paranoid and ranting about whatever. You have to look at the specifics and think about exactly what went wrong.
I think that's a good lesson. Well, Ciprian, it's been great sitting down with you again. For all you guys out there, make sure you like, share, and subscribe this video. Help us push the content out. We got some more good conversations along the way. I'm going to annoy you guys with some more Christmas music. I've got a Christmas mixtape, a couple other surprise videos. And yeah, I think as we're going into the holiday season, everybody just spend more time with your family, spend more time with your friends, spend more time doing what makes you happy. I'm going to be spending more time doing some superhero stuff and geeking out a bit.
And spend time with your family, even if you hate them. It's at least information for how other people think.
I say that as I have a family member coming into town who I told my mom the other day, I'm like, don't tell her where I work. I don't want to hang out with her. Maybe I'll accept the challenge a little bit myself.
I know the feeling.
God, everybody, brace for the holidays. Love each other. Share the hell out of this conversation. And you guys have a good rest of your day.
Good day.
Although the science says that your happiness is not that affected by your environment, that's not true. Your happiness is totally affected by your environment. Family, you don't think you'd be a little bit happier than if you were sitting all alone in your little apartment, like some of you are? I think it's absurd to imagine that changing your situation won't make you happier. You don't think that going from poor, where you're panicked about eating, to well off, you don't think that would make you happier? Because you didn't have to worry about starving? Of course it would. I guarantee it would make you happier. Fix your physical exposure, meaning go outside, make sure that you're around some beauty and that you're not looking at depressing gray things. things. I would even change my commute if it took a few minutes to go through a more attractive place. If you're going to look at it every day, it's better to expose yourself to the attractive route than the fast industrial route.